Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super Fantify. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about Demon Lord 2099 Season 1, Episode 9. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I love in the beginning part of this episode, Vital is like not taking notes in the middle of class, and the instructor had to be like, "Whoa, you need to start taking notes." And he's like, "Well, no, I've been memorizing everything," which we know Vital has the ability to understand, like, especially like technology, just by touching it, he's able to understand it. And so I guess in my head, I just kind of assumed he had like maybe like a photographic memory, eidetic memory or something like that. But it's easy to remember a lot of stuff considering like some of the stuff she's referencing. He's like, "Oh, I was there. This whole thing happened." And like he referenced like what was the guy's name? Was it Railroad or something like that? It's like, oh yeah, this guy kind of basically wowed out because he tried to like do something with a soul, and it had something to do with his wife. And I think one of the people was like NTR. It's like, whoa, did we even cover something like that in class? He's like, oh yeah, he's talking about it as if he was there. It's like, well, he was. And then mocking her doing the thing she did last episode. And then talking how she wants to give me like, why are you the one acting all smug and stuff? So yeah, once again, enjoying the school life aspect of it all. But essentially, we get more of a deep dive into our new character that we got introduced to last episode, Hizuki, as she's confronted by Albert, and he's from a pretty noble family. So I wonder, I wonder if everyone at that school is a noble to some extent, you know, and obviously there's levels and tiers to nobles, just like, you know, I made a comparison to Trails of Cold Steel because they have the 4 noble houses. This has the 3 noble houses, but in that universe, there's like different levels. There's what's the lowest count? The lowest is the barons, then there's the viscounts, and then there's the counts, and then there's the marquises, and then there's the dukes. Like, you know, so I'm curious, this place probably has that similar hierarchy, because it turns out like Hizuki is from the Reynard family, which is one of the 3 big houses, but their family's fallen on disgrace. Later on, Vital kind of wonders if it has something to do with the reason why they lost their orb. It's like, I get like maybe because I mean it's generally just considered lost. So, but the fact is we don't know the specifics of like how that happened. I don't know, like maybe whatever incident happened that made them fall from grace, it led to them losing the orb. Like not like it was taken, but maybe they sacrificed it. I don't know, because you feel like if it was like public knowledge about like why they fell from grace, and it did have something directly to do with that, but maybe there is some correlation. Because it's interesting because Hazuki talks about it almost like she knows why her circumstances are what they are, because she's really smart. She has the magical knowledge. She just doesn't have the power to do it. But she also says like she makes it sound like, oh, it's complicated. Like she knows that it seems like she might know whatever her constitution is, whatever her situation is that's preventing her from having access to her magic. Because Beto kind of talks about her almost in like a Naruto way, where like Naruto has like a vast pool of chakra just naturally, not even counting the nine-tailed fox's chakra, but a lot of his chakra, like half his chakra, is constantly always being used to seal away the nine-tailed fox as part of the seal, so he never has access to his full chakra for a good chunk of time. I don't know if that's ever gotten I don't know if that ever technically gets remedied later on, because obviously he gets access to the nine-tailed fox's chakra as the story would grow, but you get like his own natural reserve. So I wonder if she has a similar circumstance where like part of her power, because Vetal could tell she has the potential, but maybe she just can't access it because it's kind of sealed away. Because the way they talk about it kind of makes it seem like she's a half breed, because she is like, oh, you're one of your parents a vulgar elf and the others. So I'm like, I guess like maybe she had an elf parent that hooked up with like a human person, so she's kind of a half-breed, and that's another reason why she's looked down upon in the threefold of you don't have really good magic, the only reason why you're in this school is because your family's name, but your family's name is disgraced, and you're half-breed. So it's like the trifecta of just like people not liking her and looking down upon her. So Hizuki takes all the abuse from this Albert guy, who, once again, going back to Trails, his name is like, was it Haygrams? It just made me think of like High Arms, especially him being this snooty prep dude. I'm like, oh, definitely gives me Patrick High Arms vibes, definitely. But yeah, Hazuki was gonna let all that go because she's used to people like crapping on her. But it's like the moment he brought her parents up is what pissed her off. But then Vetol got in the middle of it because he's like, "Yo, you're disturbing the peace of me enjoying my udon." But then he hears Haygrams. He's like, "Oh my god, I knew your ancestor. Oh my god, he was a coward. He was in front of me cowering, and just in my sheer presence, he ran away." And Albert didn't appreciate it. It's like and doing the classic, old school duel thing of throwing like a white, well, it's supposed to be like a glove or whatever, but in this case, it's like a white cloth to be like, "Yo, I challenge you to a duel." Which Hazuki was like, "Yo, like he shouldn't do this because Albert boasts about being like the strongest person in the entire school. Like it's all about mana manipulation, control, and your mana pool." And he's like, "Because I'm the top of all across of those, I'm the only A+ person here skill wise." And he does his strongest attack to attack Vetol, but Vetol easily grabs it and destroys it. And he's like, "Hey, honestly, given like 200 more years of training, like I could see you, like you are a worthy successor to your ancestor, and I'm sorry I kind of besmirched the name." It's almost this kind of like Vetol meant kind of, he was just being factual. He wasn't being disrespectful, but he also was being disrespectful because he didn't like how cocky and how much of a tool Albert was acting as. But it was just like that moment of kind of like almost like no, you should be proud of yourself. You're actually really powerful. There's a lot of potential here. Like if you put forth he's like, "Yeah, and like I owe you giving you a little bit more." Because the whole deal was, "Hey, I don't move from this single spot, and I win this duel if I'm able to beat you without moving." But then like I was scared for a second. I was like, well, what if there ends up being some stipulations at the school? Even though we know, like, Magic doesn't, like, there are stipulations around it. But it's like, well, Vetol's still Vetol, even if he didn't probably get the boost from his recent forays in Shinjuku, whether it's, his follower account being what it is, his stream number. So, like, even aside from that, probably, I don't know. I can't say Vetol at his base level when he first woke up would have been able to beat Albert. Maybe he still would have. I don't know. Marcus had the cheat of having his particular familia, and just the familia is giving other people advantages, but especially him, so that kind of like put Vental at a disadvantage. So who knows what he's like I mean, he was beaten up by regular civilians with familias, but no one here has familias, so he probably would have been on a much he still probably would have had the advantage even here just because of how powerful he is. But like the familiars added such a big barrier for him to kind of have to cross over. So I don't know, just kind of think about the power scaling and stuff like that in this universe because of all that. But obviously, like, regardless of then versus now, it's like he did get the boost from his 3 million, like, followers on his streams and stuff. But like I said, I still was worried, like, there'd be something more to it. I was like, oh, that would kind of suck. People underestimating Vetol. But it's like, nah, he wiped the floor with Albert. I love all that energy he was gathering around just to turn it into, like, a little, like, energy ball and fired it off his finger. Kind of gave me Frieza vibes a little bit. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of people who do stuff like that, but Frieza's the first person that came to mind. And knocked Albert out. And it's like, yep. He was declared a victor, and Hazuki does thank him, but says, like, right, you don't want to be around me or tragedy will follow. So I guess, like, she might be kind of unlucky. I wonder if it's going to be a thing of, like, maybe her parents are gone. I don't know if she's... I feel like if she was an orphan, they would have thrown that in her face. She is the head of her she's the head of their family, so I'm like... I would assume that might indicate like her parents might not be around anymore, and she might like be kind of a cursed child in a lot of ways, and so she might. That's why she probably told them like stay away from me or tragedy will follow you, just because I'm a bad luck to everyone. So not only do people like treat her like crap, but she's also I think keeping people at a distance for their own safety. So obviously knowing she's from the Reynard family made. Well, Takashi finds out, like, oh my god, that's why you stuck up for her. You're trying to get in good terms with her. But Vental was also like, yeah, but I also didn't like that Albert dude. So it's like, him being kind of a prick made me want to really do that. But Takashi's like, but yeah, you're kind of a good guy too. Like, wanting to help Hazuki out. And, it's like, yeah. Despite being, like, the Demon Lord and all that, like, he doesn't look down upon people as, like, they're lesser than, And I mean, who knows? Maybe that's just a part of how he's changed over the years, but it feels like that's just probably always been a part of his personality. To be fair, we never got to spend a lot of time with who Vetol was before his reign as the Demon King. Like, how long did he come into existence before he became the Demon King, and how long did he reign as the Demon King, the Demon Lord, and stuff like that? So stuff like that. We still don't know like how whether Vetol is 100% the same person he was then. I feel like Machina's never really commented on him being any well, except for like him caring a little bit more is kind of like one of the things. But I think personality wise, he's probably pretty much stayed the same person. It seems. I mean, this is still the same person he was when he woke up at the beginning of this series. So. But obviously, it's like their continued quest of, we know where one of the weapons are because the principal told us she'll give us her blade. Now we just got to find the crown and the orb. The orb is missing. How do we go about, like, talking to the very specific family that has the crown? So they go to Electric Town where Takahashi's like, I'll be your guide. You could get lost in this place. And so she takes them to a maid cafe. And I love that Vetol's like, I don't mean to like doubt you, but why would you come? And she's like, oh, this is a place where everyone gathers to exchange information. Plus, my research showed me like maids, they love to gossip. And Vetol's like, oh my God, I thought you just came here because you just wanted to use this as an excuse to kind of do some sightseeing. This is one of your spots you want to go. And she's like, what? No. Of course I would. Who would do something like that? I was like, okay, Takahashi. And I love the whole thing of like her main thing for being here is she's like, because initially Makina was talking about how like she did not like the prices here, and then it becomes a situation of like no, like this is such a great service and stuff like that. Like Takahashi's talking it up about everything, and I love like three of the people nearby who we saw talking to this maid before just kind of nodding their head and agree with it. So Takahashi be like, yeah, she totally gets it, she understands it. And so she brings up the whole thing about like, you know, like the dream of having a maid serve you, which obviously doesn't mean as much to Vetol and Makina because it's like, well, they dealt with that. And she's like, right, I'm constantly forgetting I'm dealing with someone who is the former demon lord and a former noble. So of course you've had this like, but she talks about these maids being the real maids, you know, so. And I love that she's just all about this situation because she's like, you know what? We need to just order us like a maid, the one with like the biggest tits. I'm like, Jesus, Takahashi. It's like seeing where your mind is. Like, I didn't realize that was going to be like her character type. I was like, maybe the maid isms and stuff like that just brings that out of everyone. You know, maybe she's only talking like that because of the maid situation, but I mean, maybe Takahashi, like, I don't think we've ever like brought up like Takahashi being like I mean, it's not like she'd be the first like pervy old man female character, like a character that's like, oh yeah, like an old man. Like that's plenty of an archetype and trope in itself, but I'm like, she had never resonated that energy until this episode where it seemed like it. Like, we'll see. Maybe we'll dive into that more and more of that. It is a bit of her personality. But I love that the maid they ended up ordering, what's her name? Yamada? Or something like that, and it ends up being Hazuki, and she's embarrassed. It's like, why are you getting upset with them? It's like, not like they went here ordering it specifically for you, but it is funny how it all works out. It's kind of fate. You told them to stay away from you, to have nothing to do with you, and the one maid they end up ordering, I mean, hell, you're using a pseudonym, that one maid they end up ordering ends up being you. So, and because they had literally just had a whole conversation of, well, maybe we should keep our distance between us, and because like Makina was like, yeah, I'd like to kind of get to know Hazuki better, but it is a thing of maybe we shouldn't push too hard and we might cause more harm than good. Like last thing, we want to stay on good terms with her, and us pushing might kind of piss her off more, which ironically enough, it ends up happening regardless, but still. Some very, very fascinating developments. I'm excited to see where this all takes us. Kind of learn more about Hazuki, because the next episode, I think it's titled something about might just be the three great houses. It's something like that nature. So I guess we're going to learn more about them. So I'm excited to see ultimately where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.